Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 72 of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, the not the only retard out driving around in an Amazon van. Trust me, there's far more many than I, which is fine. Actually, makes me a little scared. I have a guest, or excuse me, a co-host this week, and his name is David. And you know what, David? I feel bad for you. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I heard that your wife had a lot of issues with the dog this week. And, I heard that she said something like, man, this dog is sick. This dog is real sick. You get no respect, David, no respect. And so you took it to the vet. And after the vet, you took it home. And, after you brought the dog home, after a little while, the wife said, I heard all this through her. She just sent this massive text, and I'm just going to read it out to you. She said after a while, she said the dog was poorly behaved, so very poorly behaved. So you took the dog to a trainer. And I was like, okay, you took it to a trainer. Well, after the trainer, you took it home, and after a little bit, the wife said, man, the dog is too well behaved, just too well behaved. What a gentleman he is. And so you took the dog to a hypnotherapist. And after that, you brought the dog home, and after a little while, the dog started to sound like a cat. Meow, meow, meow. And then after that, she said, man, the dog is just sounding like a cat. And then you took it to the doctor, David, and you gave it to testosterone. And then you brought the dog back, and after a little while, she said, man, the dog sounds real mean, just real mean, like woof, woof. And then you decided to take the dog to church, and you took the dog to church, and you became a priest. And then you brought him home, and after a little while, she said, man, this dog's a real saint, just a real saint. And then you went ahead and took the dog to the Marine Corps and applied the dog to the Marine Corps. And then sure enough, unfortunately, after about a week, they realized it was a dog because of how jacked and pleasant and gentlemanly he was. And then he was dishonorably discharged. And so you brought the dog home, and she said, man, this dog is real tough, And then you and the dog on the way home were listening to some Kanye. And so she was looking, and so after that, you brought the dog home after a while, and then your wife said, man, the dog is looking at me real weird. I mean, I feel like he wants to shoot me. Our dog, Harvey Oswald, is just a disaster. And then the dog went ahead and spoke up and says, I wasn't pastor. She's a Jew, master.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, man, I don't know. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, David Reed.
I have no idea what that is. I haven't, I've been drinking a lot, but I'm not quite that drunk. So, it left me head scratching just a little bit.
I was up very late last night, unfortunately, trying to go to bed, and I couldn't stop thinking about how to figure out that intro, and so I went ahead and wrote that up.
Congratulations.
Who knows? We might just cut it all out. Who knows? The audience might be like, what are they talking about? Yeah, we just cut it out. So yeah, David is here. I am here. We're here for yet another round of Q&As. Questions and answers, David. I'm very excited. Are you ready to just hop right into it?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I have a list of about quite a few questions here. So let's get started with Angie wrote in. And she says this. She said, how do you come up with such interesting topics and keep them and make them unique? I'm always amazed at the topics you choose, and I always learn something new with them. What spurs you to choose such interesting things to compare and discuss?
Well, I mean, I hate to, pull the curtain back a little too much, but really all we do is we use GPT to come up with a bunch of just one-word topics.
Sometimes we use Grok.
We print them all out. We throw them in a hat. We pull out 2 or 3, and we say, how do these 3 fit together? That's our next episode.
Yeah.
No.
And we made sure to put in the prompt, make sure this topic in question is phrased in the form of somebody who is just very special, very, very special. You can only see things a certain way. And AI absolutely understands it for what it has to deal with every day, So yeah, we use no, we don't. This is just brainstorming. Me and David will basically stand around or sit around for, in between living our lives and just discuss on what we want to do, what we'd like to do, and like, oh, this movie would be good to review, or hey, this would be good for 2 films, or oh, hey, we should have this person on, or hey, I heard this person wants to come on, but they don't have a topic, so I guess they're not coming on. Oh, well, because that's our policy, by the way. If somebody wants to come on, they have to have a really unique or interesting topic.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, you know, we just have a conversation.
yeah,
It's really like
it's a conversational podcast.
it's we're pre-podcasting the podcast essentially when we do this.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. That's basically what it is me and you talking and figuring out all the nice little details. All the little happy little trees, as they say. But yeah, it's just us figuring out, brainstorming, and I get a lot of my inspiration actually from Last Stand Media, who I just adore and is the only like set of podcasts I listen to really on the regular. And every time I listen to Sacred Symbols, at least in the last year or so, it's been I just get inspired. I don't know why. Those guys aren't super inspiring, I think, from what they would consider themselves to be, but it's a PlayStation podcast. It's 5 hours long. They've got
at least one super fan right here.
Yeah, they got one super fan right here. I don't know. I'm sure I'm the only one. I don't know. There's a lot of special people in their community. I'll be frank. But yeah, Last Stand Media and Sacred Symbol specifically is really good. And shout out to Colin Moriarty and Chris Raygun and Dustin and Mr. Matty Plays and Lord Cognito. Those guys they're great. Oh, Bradley Ellis, who
and I'm kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, I disregard Sacred Symbols entirely.
Or any podcast, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think I listen to a single podcast.
No. Unless the Bearing does it.
Well, I wouldn't call those podcasts. Those are like video essays.
Are you
I'm more of a video essay guy.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it. I'm more of a video essay guy than a
same.
podcast guy.
Mm. Are you a fan of Nerdrotic?
I've watched some of his videos, but I'm not like subscribed to him or anything.
Yeah, I've been subscribed a while, but it's one of those that you subscribe to because of one interesting video and then never watch it again. It's kind of like the quartering. Oh, this was interesting, and then just blah.
Yeah, well, for the quartering for me, I was actually more interested in the stuff he had to say, like when he first started the quartering. Or at least when he first started transitioning away from his Magic the Gathering channel because his fallout with Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I kind of got into the quarterverse, as they call it. I don't actually know if they call it
Nerdrotic's part of that for sure.
I got into the quarterverse sort of like by hearing about his whole controversy with the Magic the Gathering thing stuff. And then so I like the content basically because it mostly is like, man, this guy is committed to speaking the truth, kind of a thing. Because that's what I enjoy. That's what I like to see, is someone who's committed to telling the truth no matter what adversity they face. And then after a while, he went overboard with clickbait, and I was like, I'm no longer interested.
I kind of feel like that about almost nearly every single person that is connected to either the quartering or Nerdrotic, minus like some of the bigger folks, but stuff like Melanie Mac, Nerdrotic, The Drinker or The Critical Drinker, I kind of not falling out, but I kind of just motioned away from a lot of their content because I find it extremely repetitive after a while. And if you're into that kind of content that they create, nothing against it, honestly, like I could care less, and I think they're good voices. I just really have gotten very disinterested in what they have to offer myself, I guess, as going onto YouTube and what to watch, and they just are at the bottom of the list for me. But I do love Sargon still. I don't watch his Lotus Eater stuff, but yeah, this is all part of the right wing side of YouTube.
Oh yeah,
right. These are all the Twitter bots or not Twitter bots, but Twitter folks that complain too. These are the people that they complain about. And don't even mention Blue Sky. David, did you make a Blue Sky account?
No, I briefly.
You were toying with it.
No, I wasn't toying with it.
Okay.
I scrolled through the website. That's all.
You should go on there and just like follow JD Vance or something.
Yeah. I don't know if does he plan to post there more often?
I don't know. In fact, did he get banned or no?
Well, he did get banned.
Oh, he did?
But then he got unbanned.
Really?
And from what I understand, the Blue Sky claimed that it was a mistake.
Yeah, that's just like Twitter.
Like it had something, they claimed it had something to do with like their verification system. Like somehow it got flagged as like being like a JD Vance imposter or something. And then they rectified the mistake as soon as they found out that it was actually the real JD Vance. But I can't remember who I was watching. I want to credit them because I didn't come up with this thought myself, but I agreed with it after I heard it. I think it was Bearing, actually.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he proposed his take on it, which I kind of agree with, is that what probably happened is, you know, his account got, you know, reported a lot because it's Blue Sky.
Yeah.
People got triggered just by him being on there. And so they reported his account a lot. And Blue Sky, being the left-leaning paradise that it is like, yes, we'll remove this hateful person from our service. And then when the backlash started, they're like, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. You know, it was a verification thing. But we fixed it. You know?
Yeah, usual old Twitter behavior, pretty much.
Yeah.
Who's running Blue Sky? Is it just like old Twitter devs or who?
I don't know who's running it. I know Jack, whatever his name is,
Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey, yeah, was involved
really
in the creation of Blue Sky, but I think he's actually distanced himself from it now. It's gotten a little like it's gone too far even for him on the, you know, censoring hate speech and all that kind of trajectory.
It's so funny because like Blue Sky and Threads are like the least used, least utilized social media platforms, I would guess. But I think Threads, the only person I think I know of that uses Threads is James Gunn. He uses Threads quite a bit, honestly.
James Gunn uses Threads?
Yeah. Or is it Blue? No, it's not Blue Sky. He's on Threads. So he'll post on there, and he'll post the same on, like, sometimes he'll post on Twitter, but he'll mainly just post on Twitter or Threads for some reason. I don't get it.
Why Threads, though? Why does anybody use Threads?
Because it's a Twitter competitor. That's about it.
That's the thing.
That's incorporated with Meta.
They're essentially falling for, like...
Yeah. The cool kids club.
Advertising bullshit. Because it's
it's advertised everywhere.
Well, think about it. Threads is just another Meta product. Meta already owns Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to Meta own social media platforms, just go on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, there you go.
What does Threads offer that those two don't have?
I don't know.
I'm going to go with probably nothing.
I think shorts or reels or TikToks or whatever is on every one of those platforms.
Exactly.
Too. And also with Instagram, you can just post on Facebook at the same time. So it's like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like degrees of separation from friends and family, right? Oh, I'm going to get off of Facebook because, you know, my parents are on there. I'm going to go on Instagram. Oh, I'm going to get off Instagram because my closest friends are on there. And I'm going to go to Threads. Oh, here I am on Threads, which nobody uses. So I'm all by my lonesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Just David.
It just seems like such a...
It's a waste.
I feel like it's just people falling for, you know, like I can just see every time the total subscriber count or user base for Threads grows, Mark Zuckerberg's just like, got him.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like
sign in with Facebook, which is like, oh, okay. Well, what am I doing here?
Yeah, it's like, that's why I stick with Facebook. I know Facebook.
I'm used to it.
I'm used to it. I get a lot out of it.
You sure do. You sure do, is what I'll say. I was gonna say something I forgot. So you're good.
Mostly it's just that I've got I've followed so many meme pages and like things. I've got like a very curated timeline on Facebook.
It's your own now.
I've sunk a lot of hours into it. In hindsight, I probably could have sunk a lot of hours into something more productive, but what are you gonna do?
And I think that's pretty much where the conversation goes is, you know what? Social media is fun, or as consuming as it is, it's really bad for you.
Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Complete waste of time. Like maybe go on Facebook and see what your relatives are doing if you're like, investing in your family and stuff. But if that's not the thing that you want to do, then why be on Facebook? Like, really? Like, I'm so glad they added that people button, because I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go and see, no, nothing. Okay, cool. I'm going to go away.
I think that's honestly the reason why I've stuck with Facebook so long is, one, I've got all the like curated meme pages that I follow. It's a very complex ecosystem, Facebook meme groups.
Yeah.
And also, it's Facebook, so I can check up on relatives and close family friends.
Like a good millennial.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop. And then Twitter for maybe some more memes, as well as the current happenings of the day.
Twitter for the more relevant stuff. For me.
I remember when it turned into X, and they really like ironed out a lot of the issues they had with user stuff and bots and everything, and they still have those issues for sure. But when they were really on a stride last year, I would say, like in 2024, and it was like the most fun I've ever had with X. And I don't even post on there. I just follow and retweet and download memes. That's pretty much it. And just news. Like, news was happening so fast on there that it was, you couldn't even go to YouTube because it was so recent that nobody would even have time to make a video on it yet. So it's pretty neat. But again, it's pretty much a waste of time at the end of the day. You could even be more productive and go do something else, even watching a movie and chilling out.
Or God forbid, go outside.
God forbid, man. So, well, speaking of outside, Josh wrote in and has a question that's very relevant to going outside. So you ready, David? Let's do it. Josh writes in and says, would you rather have unlimited bacon but no video games, or unlimited video games and no bacon? So would you rather?
It's a difficult question.
I'm going to go here and say, why unlimited games? We already live in a very stationary world where people are going to keep making things until the end of the world. There's only a limited amount of video games people are going to make in their life. And so there's already a limit, Josh. So if we have unlimited video games, then no bacon? But why would you choose no bacon? In fact, I'd rather have it the way it is right now, which is, oh wait, he says no more games. Well, one thing at a time. Let me go back to that first thing. I would say no more games and unlimited bacon, because bacon comes from a pig and it tastes very good. And you know what? There's enough video games already created that I have plenty of time for the rest of my life to go back and play all those games in my Steam library. You know what I mean? So I would say unlimited bacon, but no more video games.
I don't know.
What do you think, David?
Me personally, I think that unlimited either one of those things is not a good thing.
Yeah, but it's like no more of either. Like, what if all the pigs just died in the world?
Yeah, that would be a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe just specifically bacon. For some reason, the part of the pig, they couldn't make bacon out of it anymore. But then again, you can make bacon out of a lot of parts of the pig. So, well, maybe there's 3 parts, I think, or 2.
Bacon's usually made out of the pork, like the belly fat.
Yeah, the
pork
belly. Yeah.
But
so no pigs, basically, which means no sausage, no al pastor. Man, that's a little sad.
Yeah, I don't know. This, I don't know if I could make a choice on this thing.
This is a tough one.
It's like I'd rather have limited games and limited bacon than give up either one.
Like the way it is, you know. I like limited games. Keep it limited, you know. There's plenty of stuff to
Unlimited
do.
bacon is
That could
also
cause
a bad
issues.
thing because
Yeah.
I'm already rotund enough. I don't need any more bacon than I'm already consuming.
Well, even the thing about, well, what about world hunger, bro? Why wouldn't you want unlimited food? It's like, because those people are going to get fat now. Good luck. Like,
I mean,
way to go, fella. You made a new problem.
unlimited food doesn't solve
It doesn't
the
solve the
problem of
issue.
world hunger. The United States produces more food than its population can use already.
Yeah.
And
I mean, just look at me.
there's a limit to how well that food can be distributed. That's why so much food in this country gets wasted.
Yeah.
There's a limit to how well you can distribute the food.
Yeah, there's limits.
So unlimited food doesn't necessarily solve world hunger.
Yeah. If you want a taste of, pardon the pun. Pardon the pun. If you want a taste of what unlimited food would look like, just watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And there you see all kinds of issues that pop up from that film and the things they have to deal with. So that'd be my answer, Josh. Go watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Katie wrote in, Katie with a K, and she says, favorite films you've seen this year or books? Let's see. I'm going to go with films this time. I've only read most of one book so far, but I would like to read more. But films, David, what films have you seen this year that you've never seen before? And it could be from release this year or whatever. Just first time viewing, I would say. Because I know you're in the theaters every week, let's be real.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm not a homebody at all. Let's see. Favorite film I've seen.
Films, even.
Well, for one thing, we watched what was it? Godzilla,
Yeah,
the original Japanese cut.
1954.
Which I thoroughly enjoyed that film.
It's very good.
Another one that was a standout for me watching, I think I watched it this year. Pretty sure I watched it this year. Could have been last year, but I'm pretty sure it was this year. Was Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah. What did you think of that? I don't remember getting your full thoughts on it.
I really enjoyed it. It was like, what if vampires were scary again? It's kind of the premise of the movie, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think he did a really, the director, I can't remember his name.
Edgar, let me look it up.
Edgar Wright?
No, that's Edgar Wright. Nosferatu. Anyway, I'll look it up while you, what else did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I think whoever the director was, he did a really good job of taking a well-worn concept that is the vampire or the Dracula character and making it frightening again, making it intense again.
Robert Eggers is the director.
Yes.
Eggers. Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers. That's what it was. Where did I get Edgar Wright from?
Because Ed or something is in the name, apparently.
Edgar Wright is the name of a person, but
That's the director of Shaun of the Dead.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's where I got it from.
Yeah,
okay. But yeah, Nosferatu, great film.
Yes.
Almost makes me want to watch The Lighthouse.
No, don't don't watch
I
it.
haven't quite gotten up the courage to watch it though yet because it's from the little I've seen of it, it's it's definitely a thing.
It's okay, here's the thing. I like Nosferatu a lot. I watched it actually in theaters last year. Me and Angie went to go see it, funnily enough. And it was fantastic. Well, just a fantastic film, great performances, amazing direction and cinematography. And it just haunting. Just so terrifying. And not just like, ooh, it's scary, but like the foreboding of it all is the haunt is what I would say. Really good stuff. But Robert Edgar Wright. Robert Eggers is 2 for 4 in my book. I've watched all 4 of his films so far. The Witch, I've seen The Lighthouse, and I've only liked the last 2 he's done. I watched The Witch. I did not like it. It just wasn't my thing. It might be because it's just super demonic, but honestly, I just didn't jive with it. The ending was super cool though. I was like, whoa, that goat, bro. But other than that, And then The Lighthouse, ooh. Oh man, I remember watching it on Amazon Prime, and I was like, oh, why? What is this? You have to be in a certain mindset to watch that movie. William Dafoe is the best part of it by far. He's so crazy and amazing and expressive that. And anyway, the Norseman is badass and awesome, and Nosferatu's just I would say it's a masterpiece. Like, it's pretty dang good. But yeah, don't watch Lighthouse, David. Don't do it, please. In terms of films I've seen this year, my favorite film I've seen, oh man, I'm gonna stick to what I've seen in theaters. I've seen a couple, like in our 2 film stuff that we've seen. That is pretty good. But I would say Life of Chuck, which is Mike Flanagan's new joint that he wrote and directed. That guy did Haunting of Hill House and a bunch of Netflix shows. He wrote the new screenplay for the upcoming Clayface film. And he has another movie based on yet another Stephen King property called Life of Chuck, based on the short story by Stephen King. And I'll tell you what, it's a very unconventional structured film, but it's very, very compelling, strangely enough. And it's just basically a look at the beauty of life and appreciating it for what it is, because life is short. And it's really beautiful. It has a beautiful, beautiful ending. Like that, the whole third act, which is supposed to be the first act of the film. Like they rearrange it all in opposite order. It's really good. And on a second viewing, you get even more out of it because so much more context is brought in when you view it the second time. So Life of Chuck is probably my most favorite film I've seen in the last 5 years, maybe. Like I like Dune 2 a lot, but Life of Chuck's pretty dang good. So I would say, yeah, Life of Chuck. Are there any other films, David?
Let's see. Yeah, Dune 2, that was a good one.
Yeah. That was last year, though, to be fair.
Was that last year?
Yeah. You mean I took you to go see it?
You're right. You're right.
Like, bro, you gotta see this.
You're right. It was last year.
Still a great movie.
My memory's not what it used to be.
That's okay.
But yeah. Yeah, I think the standout for me this year, even though it released last year, I watched it this year, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I watched it this year, was Nosferatu.
That's really good. So, I'm trying to think of, my memory's escaping me, as well as just noticing that the papyrus sands is used on this Arizona can. It's very interesting. Do you see that, David? The bottom text?
Yes.
That's the papyrus text. Very interesting. Oh, and the custom avatar font is the all-natural text. This is great podcasting right away. By the way, I'm just showing you an Arizona can. You're like, disapprovingly at it. Anyway, I can't think of anything. Thunderbolts really surprised me. It's a extremely... you know what? David had a quote when we were doing our top 5 personal video game list a couple weeks ago, and the Wii U was brought up, and he said somebody said, yeah, that was okay, and he said that's aggressively okay. And same for Thunderbolts. It's an aggressively okay movie, but I got so much more out of it than I ever thought I would, and the powerful message that surprisingly was in there kind of made the movie far better than it has every right to be. And it's a Marvel film, which they haven't been doing very good stuff recently. But this one is pretty dang good. So anyway.
Yeah, I automatically don't like it, even though I haven't seen it, because I watched the critical drinker review.
Yeah, you watched critical drinker review. It's very negative, you know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. Trying to think. I was going to say last night it was really funny. For some reason, I was like super hyped for some reason, and I went and watched the Infinity War trailers again, like just on YouTube, and I'm like, man, these are fire. These are pretty dang good. And I just got goosebumps just watching them. It was ridiculous. I was like, whoa, that's cool. So anyway, thank you, Katie, for writing in, and Josh and Angela. Let's get to a little deeper as we dive into this Q&A, David. Malachi has a few questions for us, and let's just go through them. And we can be however long or short with them as we want. It's totally up to you. But the first one's a big one. And he asks, and he's a more recent, newer listener. He says, what are your testimonies? Just flat out. What's your testimony? I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it.
You're gonna have to think about it
for a minute.
Well, okay, I'll go if you want.
As I flash backward of my life, you can go.
Okay, so my testimony is not that exciting, but it's my testimony, so I'll go with it. So I was raised in the church, specifically raised in Pentecostal and charismatic circles. And for the very early part of my life, I never really questioned anything. It's just like, this is what I was raised with. This is what I believe. And I think I was probably around 7 or 8, maybe 9 or 10. So I was around, probably 9 or 10 when I started thinking about, like, all these things I've been taught. Like, what am I going to do with them, kind of a thing? Because, thankfully, I had been taught, for the most part, like, pretty solid doctrinal stuff. So there wasn't really, I didn't necessarily have to, like, didn't have that kind of baggage hanging over me. But I'd always been taught that profession of faith was something that you needed to do for yourself, that you need to make a decision. If you really believe this and you're going to commit your life to the Lord, if you're going to choose to be in Christ instead of outside of Christ, that's not something you do just by passively receiving things from your parents. And so, I was just like, I had sort of this, like, I remember having this kind of like, this is going to be like the make or break moment sort of a thing, which is weird because I don't have like a ton of clear memories from me as like being a kid, I have like impressions of things that I remember, but specifically this I remember very well. It was like this sort of make or break moment where I was like evaluating the things that I had just sort of passively received from growing up in a church environment, and just like, do I really want to commit my life to this? And if so, am I gonna get down on my knees in this moment and pray to God for salvation from my sins? And I kind of wrestled with it, and then I eventually decided to just bite the bullet and do it. And I've been following the Lord ever since. And then there's been a few ups and downs, I remember around the time I got into high school, I started grappling with depression. And it got to the point where around the time where I graduated from high school, I was starting to really question my faith, really question if it was real, or if it was real, if I had actually been in Christ the entire time or not, like, had I been a false convert from the beginning, if it was real, kind of a thing, And so in my kind of around when I was like 20, 21, I kind of had to reevaluate the profession of faith I had made as a kid. And thankfully, the Lord had led me to a place where I had a community of people who were modeling what it looked like to live, to basically live as the church was intended to live, kind of a thing, you know? And so around that time, I struggled with doubt and I had to reevaluate everything, but I came to the conclusion that what I had seen and experienced, I could not just walk away from my faith in good conscience. So I had to sort of make a sort of reassert my faith in that moment. And yeah, it's just been walking with the Lord day by day, trusting him for everything ever since. Nothing real exciting, but that's my testimony.
Well, thank you, David. Yeah, it's interesting. For me, I don't never really know how to start out talking about that kind of same thing, like this kind of thing, like a testimony. It's funny because as I've grown in my life, I've learned that your testimony can be the saddest thing ever, or it could also be the most boring thing ever, but it's still a testimony. And that kind of goes into something I've struggled with throughout my life, which is unworthiness, or the sense of unworthiness. You could tie it, I guess, to maybe like, I don't know, depression or something, I guess, but anxiety, I would say, most importantly. But what I would say is, in that unworthiness, a lot of it is really about mindset, because there are certain truths that God has qualified us as, like his children, for example. And, you know, I'm just saying there are certain truths that when you look at it, the unworthiness falls away, basically. Is that?
Sorry, I'm not exactly following with what you're saying.
I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying.
That wasn't a testimony, by the way.
No, I'm not. No. Well, I guess I'll just get into it. When I was little, let's see. My mom tells me this, but I don't remember it. I was too little, but apparently when I was like 3 or something, or 4, I woke up and I walked out in the living room, and I think she was sitting down doing something, and I think it was not a whole lot was going on in the house, but I just walked out very calmly and very like very sure of myself. And she said, "Well, what are you doing, bud?" And I said, "I just had a dream that I was walking with Jesus." And 4-year-old me told like this very detailed dream that I had, where Jesus was walking along with me and talking to me. And I told her this whole thing, apparently.
That's a great thing to have happen to you and not remember at all.
I know. Well, like, I mean, I believe her, obviously. And I think it did happen, obviously. So yeah, and then she sat down with me as I'm telling her this, and she asked me, she said, "Well, like, do you want to ask Jesus in your heart?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then from there I was saved. So that was the first first time I invited him into my heart, basically. But the real growing didn't start until like the teenage years. Funnily enough, in youth group, it was kind of the same thing for me, David, where like there are these passive beliefs that your parents and you can't really like truly inherit them. You have to make a decision and a choice for yourself in your heart. and your spirit, obviously. And I really struggled with that because I'm growing up and as a teenager, and I'm like, oh, like adulthood's only like, 4 or 5 years away. I got to figure this out, I guess. And youth group was a great outlet of figuring that out, just contemplating and learning about the gospel and really diving deep in a lot of things and really understanding fully what he has for us, And those years I didn't struggle with my faith until I think college. Like I always knew I definitely knew what I believed for sure. There was definitely ups and downs, I would say, but the growing happened in those teenage years and seeing mostly how other people behaved and what they claimed to be, and seeing like the mistakes they made and be like, oh, I don't want to make that mistake. So I was very blessed to see a lot of mistakes that people made around me and try to kind of learn from that instead of making my own. And not saying I didn't make my own, but it was there's ups and downs. I would say as an adult, the application process absolutely cemented itself. Like in the teenage years, like you grow up in the church. I grew up in the church as well. And you hear about all the things, the Bible stories, all this, and you believe it, definitely. But the application of it in your life, I didn't really take it seriously until I would say teenage years. And then as I grew into an adult, it really it obviously ramped up because, you're living on your own, you're doing your own stuff, working, dealing with the craziness of the world, being responsible. And when push comes to shove, you got to figure out how to deal with that from a godly perspective. And so, yeah, it was just a lot of thinking, a lot of figuring things out. For me, it was always I think anxiety was probably my biggest thing I'd always struggled with. That's where the sense of unworthiness comes from, by the way. And I had great parents. They were awesome. But for some reason, I just felt like I could never live up to pleasing those around me. I felt like that was more on my mind as a teenager than stuff of like focusing on Jesus and the relationship with that. Versus today, where that relationship is much, much stronger. And, I'm a work in progress, and every day you're, just figuring it out as you go. So I would say, it's nothing special, but I would just say that, yeah, you gotta, as you grow up and figure things out, fellowship, I think, is a big thing in how to prove yourself. But also, of course, reading the actual word. So, yeah, that's my testimony, I guess. I don't know. I remember being at the shift a lot, actually, which I know you were there too. And there was a lot of growth there for sure, spiritually.
Yeah, we were kind of it's kind of funny how we were both there, but we were like in different places.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was there as like a 13, 14-year-old or whatever. And then I don't know how old you were, but
I was,
you were a leader, I think, right?
Yeah, how old was I? I was like, probably, yeah, like 21, 22, I think, around the time the shift started. So yeah, I was like going from trying to live as a Christian teenager to trying to lead ministry as an adult. So it was very, very interesting time. And that was around the same time I was dealing with depression and questioning my faith. So it was kind of a thing like I kind of like got sort of roped into helping out with the ministry, kind of almost by accident. I was basically just kind of like walking around and,
being a part of it.
I was just kind of like walking around town, and then a friend of mine, like that I knew from somewhere else, pulls up in a car on the street next to me is like, "Hey, get in! We're starting a church." And you might know him. That was Eddie Romo.
Yeah.
That was
I love
Eddie Romo. Yeah, he just saw me walking around in town, just on the sidewalk, and he stopped. And he's like, "Yeah, we're starting a church over here. Get in." And I was like, okay. So I just kind of got swept up into this, like, helping start a youth ministry, like, almost by accident. Around the same time I was dealing with kind of like the issues of like, well, is this even real or not, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to figure out a lot of things, but God was gracious and he brought me into a situation where the right people were around me to help me along the way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would, it's very interesting because Eddie Romo spoke over my life once or twice, but I only remember the one time because we were doing like prophecy stuff or like, speaking into other people basically. And we were gathered around a circle. This was after service. This was just, I think it was a Sunday or Saturday night after youth group. And it was part of youth group or part of church, I think, but it was after everything. It was like the final part. And it was me, you, Amelia, Thad, Eddie, and a couple other people there. And I remember Eddie going up to me and he spoke a word over my life. And I still remember it to this day. I remember exactly what I saw the genuineness of the Holy Spirit in him as he spoke it. And I can still see it, even remembering it right now. And I remember him speaking over me. And he said, "You're going to do other stuff that other people aren't going to do." And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. But you're going to be, and he tried to find the word, and then he found it. He said, "You're going to be a trailblazer." And I was like, interesting. Okay, what does that mean? And so I kind of had that in the back of my mind as I went through my life so far. And it helped me with computers because nobody else in my family did computer stuff. The way I got inspired from that was we got home from a movie. Yeah, it was like Big Hero 6 back in 2014. I got home from the movie and I randomly looked up how to build a computer. And then that started my volunteering at a computer recycling plant and then tearing apart computers and then going to Butte College, learning about computers and then figuring out if this is what I want to do for my career and then getting a job at Butte College that has to do with computers. And that I was like, oh, that kind of is a trailblazer thing. And then the whole fire stuff was like kind of happenstance too. Like it happened to me randomly, at least I think. And then I went in that direction. And like nobody else I knew did fire stuff, really. Maybe volunteer stuff, that's about it. And then, I don't know, maybe podcasting as well. Like you see all these different, like, all the tools you have and skills and gifts you have as you grow, and you got to use them for something. And this podcast was one of our avenues to do that. And I've seen a lot of growth in you, like just, I guess, skill-wise. And then in myself as well, just getting better at talking, I guess. But I always remember him saying that, Eddie speaking over me. And I kind of took that and it's kind of come to pass a little bit as I've gone through my life. And it's been true. So there's a lot of good stuff that happened there. And maybe not so good things too. But if you want to learn more about that and what the shift was, we actually talked about it in a couple Snarp Fangle episodes with Thad specifically. We had him on. The episode is Sacred versus Secular 2, Perspective versus Pastoring, or Perspective and Pastoring. And then we did an episode of him called Spiritual What Ifs. And I think we dive into the story of the shift in both of those at some points, which are both, I love listening to those episodes because I learned so much from Thad and just his perspective and his knowledge. And also the back and forth between you two, you and Thad, David, is so interesting because you're so knowledgeable in the word, and him as well. Just, I love seeing that back and forth. And I know I'm not very confident in all that esoteric stuff and theological debates, but I'm very intrigued to listen in on it. So I'd recommend people go listen to those. But yeah, I think I would say testimony is more like in moments like that, really for me. Like like it was called the shift for a reason, but more like moments in your life that kind of divert you a little bit, kind of had an effect on you. And I would say that was one of them for me.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing is when you hear the word testimony, you try to, like, I think people's mind goes to, like, you know, the story of the time you first gave your life to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that story is not always so interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes the real learning moments happen later in your life, you know?
Mm.
And, you know, it works differently with different people. There's a lot of people who have had very dramatic conversion stories, and those are powerful. But the two of us, no.
We're not that interesting.
But yeah, there's a lot of our learning how to live and walk as a Christian came much later in life for, I think, the both of us.
What is something you've learned at a moment in your life with your walk of faith, David, or even a perspective on life from a faith-based perspective?
Something I've learned? I mean, I've learned so many things, but...
Well, was there a moment like the mild trailblazer moment or something, or was there something like, oh, that's what that means in the scripture?
I think a big thing for me was learning to see myself as Christ sees me. Learning to trust in the work of the cross. Because, you know, we make a profession of faith as Christians, right? But a lot of the time, what we end up trying to do is walk out the Christian life in our own strength. And that always leads to trouble. For me, during my formative years, I think that was the biggest problem I had, was I had made a profession of faith, and yet I was still trying to walk out the Christian life in my own strength, trying to see myself through a lens of self-righteousness. And then you can try to keep that up for so long, but eventually it wears you down. You're like, what's the point of all this? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm nothing. How can I do this? I'm a failure in every way. And then when I truly learn, not just like head knowledge, because the head knowledge is kind of there from the beginning, you know, but when I truly got that revelation of who I am in Christ, that it was all about Christ's work on the cross and nothing about what I did, it was so freeing.
Yeah.
Because then when I come to a situation and I think I'm a failure, I'm like, no longer is that a bother to me. If I'm a failure, what does it matter? Because in Christ, I have everything. In Christ, I'm a new creation. In Christ, the past has been wiped away. The work of the cross is sufficient for all sins, past, present, and future. So if I feel like a failure in the moment, what does that matter? I do my best. I learn from my mistakes, and ultimately I trust Christ for everything. So that was kind of the biggest, I think, learning moment for me during my formative years, was learning to truly trust in the work of Christ on the cross and not try to do it in my own strength.
Yeah, three things kind of popped out to me as you were saying that. Number one is, that's always I've struggled with that too, like seeing you as Christ sees you. And that's where the sense of unworthiness also plays into my journey as well. Because when you like you said, when you actually fully understand that, it is so freeing. which goes into my second thing. And the second thing would be, I see many people in my life follow religion or a religion or something else that's not Christianity because they're looking for that freeing feeling, that sense of it's all going to be okay. But they look for it in the exact wrong places. I've seen people who have been in cults, people who are part of cults right now, but also people who are like in weird kind of Christian-y church thing, but it's like an activist thing as well. Mostly politically activisty. I see people do that. I see people who also grow up in the church and then, oh, you're an adult now. I'm just not going to go to church anymore. Which I think is like the majority of kids who grow up in the church. Which kind of goes into my third thing, my final thing, which is as a youth minister, I've been a youth minister. I don't even like saying minister because I'm not like ordained or anything. I just have helped the youth group along, I guess, and the kids as well. But I've been doing that since 2015. And I took a year off, so it's going to be 9 years this year, I guess. And that sense of unworthiness really came to its head when leading youth group. Especially when, you don't have your whole life together or you're an adult in the early aspects or whatever. But what I learned from that is you invest in the people and show them and be Jesus to them through your actions, through your words, through your uplifting, encouraging of them. Because youth group's not a place of putting people down. It's a place of uplifting others. I would say church is that too. Doesn't mean you can't say truth. You got to say truth and sin is bad and all that stuff. But you're there to uplift the kids that are coming. Because when they go home, they might not get that. They might be that might be the only place they'll get Jesus. So that whole kind of unworthiness came back up when I was a youth minister because I'm like, I can't even relate to some of these kids because, I grew up in the church and they don't. Or, your home situation is this and I have no experience dealing with that, And that was always a struggle for me because I just felt unworthy to lead these kids or be part of their lives because I don't know if I could be a good enough role model. But it goes back to that freedom. That you see yourself as Christ sees you. And it's so beautiful. So, but that goes into our second question that Malachi asks. How do you personally go about sharing your faith? And I would say it's through your actions as a very simple answer. But I'll see what you say, David.
Let's see. Sharing my faith. I guess the short answer is however I can. Because you don't always get an opportunity to have a serious discussion about, faith and theology and all that.
Yeah.
So it's really just about following the Lord. Because there's one thing, it's like God wants to be involved in every aspect of you. And so part of it is in your day-to-day life when you don't think you're doing quote-unquote godly things or quote-unquote Christian things, God wants to be involved in that part of your life too. He wants to speak into your life there too. He wants to teach you things there too. He wants to lead you there too. And so really staying attentive to the leading of the Holy Spirit, being able to know when He is leading you to say certain things and when He is not leading you to say certain things, and just taking every moment you can to speak what the Lord wants you to speak in that moment. And that's basically all I do. I don't have any sort of grand master plan for evangelism. I leave that to God.
Amen. Yeah. What I will say, I basically kind of want to just echo what you said, David. Like, I don't think I can add really anything, but what I will add is this, and it's very cheesy, but it's a quote from Gandalf, of all people. And it's in the first Hobbit movie, but I believe it's in some of the writings of Tolkien, and it says, "It's the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay." But I would say it's a lot of the going out of your way for others, the kindness in those moments that keeps the darkness at bay. And you got to be careful with that, because sometimes it could be like, I'm going to do this because I'm a good person. You got to put yourself away and put God first, most importantly, in your life. And from your heart, what's the saying? Is what's the verse or saying, David? It's from your out from your heart flow the
From
issues
the
of life.
abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks.
Yeah, and flow the issues of life.
Well, that's two different verses.
Two different. What's the other one?
Well, there's from the abundance of the mouth, the heart will speak, and then there's guard your heart, for from it flow the issues of life.
Yes, because there's good in and good out, but there's also bad in and bad out. And I'll leave it there. All right, let's get to that next question. Malachi says this, and this is the stuff me and him have talked about, and I'm very intrigued to get. This is stuff you and me have talked about, even David, and I'm very intrigued to get some sharings on this. So, what are some good representations of Christians in media versus bad representations of Christians in media? And he says in parentheses, news anchors, influencers, actors, fictitious characters, etc. What's some good and some bad representations of some Christian folk? I'll tell you one thing that's bad is all them Guys Not Dead movies. They're crap.
Oh my God.
I'm joking.
Bad is kind of a tough thing for me, because I've really have taken to heart this the idea that you shouldn't be quick to speak badly about other Christians. There's plenty of Christians out there that I disagree with. Sometimes even what one might call radical disagreement.
They might have been on the podcast at one point. I'm joking. Continue on. You don't got to answer that.
But all the same, I really refrain from speaking badly about other believers, or at least I try to.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to come up with bad examples without doing that. So I don't know if I have any bad examples.
Yeah, I can't really think of any either. Like, you also, in the question, you say Christians in media. And I'm trying to think of, like, even real life examples, and I'm kind of drawing a blank, honestly. Like, there's influencers that I have issue with, but I feel like we all fall and trip over ourselves sometimes, and there's grace for that. So I don't really want to point out all the, I don't like this about them because they do this. And look, there's issues that I have with them, but I don't know if it's like worth speaking bad about them, honestly. Like, a good representation, I think, look at the best representation, which is Jesus. And we're called to be like Christ, which is what literally Christian means. In terms of bad, there's Judas, I guess. There's those that turned away from the faith. We've actually talked about a few of them on this podcast. But I don't know. Them and God got to figure it out. In fact, I think just last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about Michael Tate,
Yeah.
and that was an interesting discussion.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is I would actually call that a good example rather than a bad example because, yeah, the things he did weren't great. But I mean, really, if you look at it from an eternal perspective,
Yeah.
none of the things that anyone does are great.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we needed a savior in the first place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually, Michael Tate would be a good example for me because...
And this isn't the Tate brothers, by the way. This is the former singer of the Newsboys.
Yeah. just
to clarify.
Yeah, it's not Tate, it's Tait.
Correct.
Yes, different Tates.
Different Tates.
Those other Tates are not Christian as far as I can tell.
No.
Not at all. But yeah, Michael Tate would be actually a great example of a good one for me because he's willing to call sin, even at the expense of protecting his own reputation. And he seems like he's committed to walking the path of restoration. Like learning how to be better, basically, rather than trying to just put it behind him and pretend like it never happened, kind of a thing, which I think is it's a trend for sure with a lot of famous Christians. I feel like, especially pastors, there's a lot of examples you can find of pastors who had some kind of scandal, some kind of falling out, some kind of bad thing that they did or bad thing that they were just kind of involved in, and they get fired from their church or they resign from their church and they leave and they go start a new life somewhere and they start a new ministry up. And it's like the bad thing never happened. And Michael Tate's not trying to do that. He is specifically trying to walk a path of restoration so that he is truly transformed. Truly transformed into into the person that God created him to be, and not into the old man or the carnal man, which can try to rear its ugly head even though it's dead. Like, that's the thing, is our sin, it died on the cross with Christ. But sometimes we forget that, and we start sort of allowing the old man, the carnal man, to do the whole weekend at Bernie's routine. And we start acting like that old man, that carnal man. Until we, come to our senses and we're like, okay, wait, this old man's dead. I need to put him back in the grave where he belongs and put on the new man. So I think Michael Tate's, from what I can tell, I don't know him personally, but from what I can tell, he seems to be doing a really good job of putting off the old man and putting on the new man and trying to walk in that, even if the path is hard, even if it's difficult, even if it makes him look like a fool, even if it makes him look bad, he's willing to walk that path. He's willing to do what it takes to walk in the newness of life that we are called to as Christians.
And that's one main reason why I stray from criticizing. I mean, it's not like I do it every day. I don't. It's a very weird thing. Like, what do you think of, like, if when an interviewer came up to me on the street, he's like, what do you think of what do you think of Joel Osteen? It's like, oh, well, I could think of a lot of things of Joel Osteen, but like, what's the use of it? You know? But that's, I think what you said, David, resonated with me just there. It's between basically them and God. I can't remember how you phrased it just now. But you said something about, what was it? Ah, dang it. Oh, well. But basically that's the main reason, is like maybe God has a greater purpose for what they are doing right now. And it could benefit the Lord. Whether it be through, I think Romans 3 talks about this, whether it be through their sin or through the goodness of the things they do. You know? Romans 3 touches on this, and I was just listening to it this morning, funnily enough. And it talks about like, well, God will use that sin and he will punish that sin, or punish the bad things that they do, and justice will be served. But what if he has a greater purpose, basically? You know, what if he has a master plan? He, in every one of our lives, like he has a plan. And that's why the trust has to come in, and discerning of what things that appear in your life are. That's one thing I've learned a lot in the last like 10 years or so, is discerning what's from the Lord and where does it fit, and what Lord do you want me to learn from this? Because the biggest thing I've learned, I think, in youth ministry, as well as working at the college, is seasons, and how you are with people for a season of their life, like stepping stones, like we talked about with Stephanie that one time, where you are only in their life for just a moment, even a fraction of their life. And it's not, oh, how are they going to remember you? It's how are they going to know God through you in that moment, in that fraction of your life that you have with them. And there are sometimes I feel guilty. I could have done better helping a student or helping a kid in youth group, but you got to let that go and let God plant the seeds, and do your part in planting those seeds, and then giving it to God and let him do the rest. And that's really how I would end that. So the fourth and final question from Malachi is this, and this was the thing I was talking about. Thank you, by the way, for the third question, but this was what I was talking about, Malachi, and to you, David. Being that we are called to be separate from the world, what should that look like in the contents of influencing culture through art? So again, we're separate from the world. We're called to be. But how should that look like in the contents of influencing the culture through your art?
So one thing, being separate from the world is kind of a complicated topic, because Scripture talks about us being in the world, but not of the world. And there's another point where it talks about judgment, and he's reminding his audience that he's not talking about judging non-believers, because if you had to do that, sorry, not judgment, but not associating with people who practice certain things. And he has to remind his audience that he's not talking about unbelievers, because if you were to disassociate from everyone who practiced sinful things in the world, then you'd have to be taken out of the world somehow. So he's reminding his audience, when he's talking about not associating with people who live unrighteous lives, he's specifically talking about believers. So there's this concept in Scripture that even though we are not of this world, we're not taken out of this world either. We're not actually separate from the world. We're stuck right into the middle of it. And I think that's by design.
Yeah.
I think we're placed in the situations in life that we are because in order to navigate them, we have to rely on God and follow his lead in everything.
Amen.
And as far as influencing culture and stuff through art, I think my philosophy is I try to just do what comes natural to me as far as creating art and media or whatever else. You know, like I'm naturally a musician, so I create music. You know, I have a more like audio, like technical audio nerd side of me, so I do things like podcasting, and I keep up on the more like technical aspects of music that a lot of people, you know, that just don't want to mess with, kind of a thing, because I'm kind of more wired for that. But at no point am I trying to like, I'm going to be a Christian artist or a Christian podcaster kind of a thing. I'm just going to make use of the gifts that I have. And I'm going to try to do it in a way that honors God. No matter whether the content or media or art that I produce could be called Christian or not, kind of a thing. So my goal is not to try and make everything I do about Christianity, but more like in everything I do, I'm trying to be the person that God called me to be. And whatever comes from that, I leave to him, kind of a thing.
Amen. I asked a question to I think he used to pastor a bunch of folks back in the day. This man's like in his 70s, but I was visiting a church and I went up to get prayer, and this was just a couple months ago. And I asked this fella, like, hey, I need prayer. And he's like, what do you need prayer for? And I'm like, oh. And I was like, well, what do I need prayer for? I'm like, well, I need prayer for creativity. I want to be inspired. And he said, then you got to surrender. And that really just ripped me up inside for like what I was going through at the time, where my mind was at, what I was reading the Bible. I was kind of like negating that a lot. And I asked him, I said, well, I want to be creative. And he said, total and utter surrender is how you get to that. Give it to God. And I said, dang, well, and then we prayed. But it's really the truth. It's giving it to the Lord. And even if you're like, for example, on a movie set and you're the gaffer or something random like that, give it to the Lord. Like, hey, Lord, I'm going to work this shift. I'm going to work another 12. We're doing 6 to 6 or 7 to 7 on this movie set today. We're filming the new Mike Flanagan movie or whatever. I'm just going to give it to you. Or maybe you're a writer. Maybe you're doing stuff on YouTube, for example. Give it to the Lord. Maybe you're writing a weekly newsletter. Give it to the Lord. And who knows how you're going to refine your skills through that and what things are going to pop up in your mind. I learned this when I was doing a bunch of random edits, not random, but video montages I did back in 2022. I was very specific and very granular with my style of it. And it was just me learning how to use Adobe Premiere, basically, and an avenue to use my skills in video editing. And I would release one every month. And there were times when I'm sitting in front of the computer and I can't figure it out. And so I would walk away, or while sitting there, I would say, Lord, like, I can't figure this out. So you figure it out, and just give it to him. I give it to him, and as I'm going forward and editing and doing the action, not just sitting there, but actually doing the action, I figure it out, or something random would happen. And I'm like, that would work really well. Or a thought would come into my mind. I'm like, I wonder where that thought came from. And it turned out that it made the edit better, or what have you. There's been many weeks in the podcast where I'm like, man, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then we somehow figure it out. There's also been times, like pretty much every week I try to do this where like, all right, Lord, we're going to record tonight. So I give it to you. And yeah, just let your Holy Spirit move or whatever. And then something like that. Even for a silly thing like a Q&A or a Two Films podcast that all 20 of our listeners, listen to. But it is surrender. It truly is. And I know, Malachi, you may have discussed this about this movie Sinners specifically, and how like, well, there's a lot of like Christ in that movie, and it is definitely true. But then the argument comes up from not me or you, but other few people who would say, but man, that movie, it's just got a lot of evil, man. It's glorifying evil because there's evil in it. And I'm like, not necessarily. But there's a lot of things you can see morally that are good in that film. Or another random example, So it's a very nuanced topic, but it's total surrender is what it is. And it comes from the heart. And that's where it starts. So that's what I would say. But David, do you want to go watch God's Not Dead 6 anytime soon?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good on that.
Yeah, same. So that's a whole different topic. All right. Moving on. Thank you, Malachi, for writing in. Lexi writes in. She says this, David. Snarp Fangle. And these are going to get a little shorter questions, by the way. Snarp Fangle. Who are your go-to Mario Kart characters? Now, before we answer this, we got to establish what Mario Kart it is. So, David, what Mario Kart are we talking about? Or do we want to go one by one?
I don't know. It really depends. I can't even remember the last time I played Mario Kart.
You were just talking to me this week about the original one on the SNES.
Oh yeah, well that's the one I played more than any other one.
Well, what's your go-to character?
I'm pretty boring. I think I usually go with Mario.
Okay. I'm a Yoshi man myself, but I kind of like to spice it up if Donkey Kong's there. Because Donkey Kong's a big lumbering ape, and he can move them big old shoulders of his, and I imagine you can get weight, but I don't think that's how the game works, but I'd like to imagine it is. So I'm going to say DK, Yoshi, and in the later entries, you always got to go with Waluigi, my boy.
Yeah, well there is the dynamic where the larger characters can, if like in a collision, like the larger character is going to be the one who makes the other one spin out. So like
that's true.
There's that.
The weight, yeah.
But also all the big characters that can do that accelerate really slowly.
Yeah.
So you gotta balance it out. And I've always liked being in the middle. So that's why kind of Mario's my go-to.
I don't want to go play 8 Deluxe now for some reason. Well, not for some reason, but for the obvious reason. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Yoshi or Donkey Kong or Waluigi. But my David's a Mario man. Yahoo, boy. I don't know why I said that. All right, moving on. Thank you, Lexi, for writing in. Jace writes in. Hi, Jace. Your nephew, David. And he says he wants to know what our favorite video games are. Well, I got a list, but I'm going to hand it to you, David. What's your favorite video games?
Favorite video game? I mean, there's so many I could say. I'll definitely say basically, I think I answered this question on the couple podcasts ago when we did our gaming one. It's all the great Super Nintendo games that I grew up playing, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Mario Kart, Kirby's Dream Course, Super Mario RPG. Those have been the big ones for me.
Good list right there. I would say Age of Mythology and No, this is no particular order. You got Age of Mythology in there. The original and the remake is both spectacular. Half-Life 2 is great. JC can't play that yet, but when you're grown up, you will. It's pretty dang good. What else? Halo 3 is pretty dang good. What else? There's I'll pick a more recent one. What's a more recent title? That's one of my most favorites. Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 is fantastic. What a picture, as they say. But in terms of like games your age, Jace, let's pick one for you. What would I recommend to you? That's just amazing. Well, Mario Kart we did talk about. You got to try Mario Kart Wii out at some point, Jace. And I know it's possible because I know there's a Wii or a way to access a Wii in your house. Mario Kart Wii is pretty fun, especially when you're driving it with the Wiimote. I'll try that out.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Dolphin running on Matt's computers before, so
yeah.
I don't think there'll be any problem with playing Wii games.
Yeah, good stuff. Oh, and before I even forget, you can play this at anywhere you go visit. I know all the people you know, Jace. At least I think I do. But you can go play this in nearly every house if you know the right people, that is. And that is Banjo-Tooie. That classic N64 title. Banjo-Kazooie's the first game. Banjo-Tooie's number 2. And it is just one of the best games ever, Jace. Super great.
I like how you're recommending a 3D platformer from the N64 to an 8-year-old.
Yeah, why not?
No,
I mean, it ain't going to be like, you know, the Fortnites that the kids play nowadays, or the Fall Guys, or whatever they're playing, or the Marvel Rivals. But Banjo-Tooie, so good. Oh. Also one of the first, like, pseudo open world games. It's just great. Anyway. All right. Arson wrote in, and he brought another video along with him. And what I would have to say is, you got a lot of books, man, in this update of your collection of media. I mentioned the SpongeBob meme, David, with him doing the rainbow thing, like media, you know? Like we were at church Sunday and I randomly thought of like, oh, the Holy Spirit. Oh no, it was that Bible study where like they're talking about Noah and we were analyzing, I think Genesis 6, like the latter half of Genesis 6 for Noah. And I'm like, oh, what was there at the end? Oh, it's a rainbow. Anyway, we watched the video and you got a lot of books. You must really like dragons, man. Dragons are good. But what I would say, Arson, is at this point in your media collection, especially since you sent it to us via YouTube, is what you should do next is you should do reviews of these medias. You should do separate videos for reviews for movies, books, book series, and of course, video games. You're at the point where you're invested to the point where you should do reviews. I'd watch them. I'd like to hear your thoughts. You already have pretty decent thoughts already formulated in your mind from watching these collection updates. And I like how you bought Django Unchained. That movie's so great. Super good. Not as good as Inglourious Bastards, but still pretty dang good.
I don't know. I would say that they're pretty much on par with each other.
You know what I need to watch though is Hateful Eight. I haven't seen that yet.
That is also one that I haven't seen.
Maybe we'll have to do it for 2 films at some point.
Maybe
2 films with Sam Jackson in a beard.
2 films where Sam Jackson says the N-word. No.
We have so many options if that's the case. Yeah, that's what I think of the video. Before we get into the question, what did you think, David?
Yes, the video. I did watch it.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying this, it sounds like I didn't watch it, but I swear I did. don't really have many thoughts other than, man, you really like that Wings of Fire series.
Yeah. There's a book series that it's about the Napoleonic Wars, but it's basically Napoleonic Wars but dragons with dragons thrown in. And I'm gonna look it up right now because let's see. I can't remember what it's called. Napoleonic. Man, this is a great Napoleon Bonaparte dragon book. What is it called? Oh, the Temporary book series. It's called His Majesty's Dragon is book number 1. And they're basically like Napoleonic Wars, but with dragons. If you're into dragons and you want the next level of your investment in dragon books, Arson, I would say that's the route to go. Also, Peter Jackson has the rights to make films based off those. And I hear the characters are really good. I highly doubt he'll ever make the films, though. Even though this is also a book series that Adelaide highly recommends to people. And I would recommend it too. So anyway, just a thought. But your question, Arson, comes in the form of this. If both of you were to be on a game show, which one would it be and how will you perform? David, engage me. Talk about this for 10 straight minutes.
Game show. Let's see.
Game show, yeah.
I can't say there's a game show I want to be on, but if I were forced,
yes.
If I had to choose, I think I'd choose Jeopardy.
Ooh, interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going Family Feud, or whichever one Steve Harvey hosts.
That would be Family Feud.
Family Feud, that's all.
Good answer! Good answer! Yeah, good answer! When they say the stupidest goddamn thing ever. Yeah, I don't like Family Feud.
It's extremely obnoxious. Like, obscenely obnoxious. If that's even a term to use.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. I think I would have a lot of fun, though. I would bring out my rambunctious side for that. And I like Steve Harvey. I think he's very entertaining.
Yeah, Steve Harvey is funny. It's just more like just some of the...
a good effort answer, but they can't say it because it's TV. But you know.
Well, they just say, good answer, when they...
It's dumb.
They literally say the dumbest thing you could
my wife's
possibly
hairdo. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, and then... it's like a formula.
Yeah.
It's
things people sit on. It's like, oh man.
It's like, yeah, they'll say like things people sit on. It's like my wife's face or something.
It's like, and then
something that's
there's the face on there, and then it says, it's oh no.
And it's just like, it's so funny too, because every time it's like always the same thing. They say something off the wall like that. And Steve Harvey just has this like dumbstruck, like mouth open look on his face, while the rest of the family who didn't answer the question are like desperately trying to encourage the person, like, yeah, good answer, good answer. And it's one of those things, if you're into like just awful cringe, that's the show to watch.
Oh, wait, David, doesn't Game Grumps have a game show?
What?
Like, not like a game show, but haven't they done like some videos before where they're like questionnaires or like quizzes or something? I know they've done stuff on Akinator, but that's different.
I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, I'm thinking of Smosh. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Smosh.
I was gonna say I don't recall any game shows.
I would be on whatever game show Smosh does where they have to make the person laugh and spit water out, basically. That's what I would be on. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I would love to make people laugh by being the most retard person as possible. Like, there's so many ways to do it. And I can do it too. Don't doubt my skills, David. I don't know. I see the videos every once in a while on Instagram and I'm like, these are hilarious. Just super fun. So, yeah, I would be, Family Feud. Sure, why not? So, and how will you perform? I'd be amazing at Family Feud. Maybe, most likely, not for sure, but maybe. I'd give myself a good 55% chance. We're over the glass is half full here. How would you perform, David, on Jeopardy? You did pretty good, I think.
I'd say I'd probably be average, depending on what the topics are.
Yeah, you got to figure out what the writers are writing on the show.
It's like because it varies so much. There's been ones where I'm like, I can't believe these people don't know this.
Yes.
And then there's other episodes I've watched where it's like, I don't know any of this. So it's like, it really depends on what's there on the board, but I think I do average.
Yeah.
I'd at least know, the origin of Joseph Stalin's name, which that was the one episode where I was like, I can't believe that none of these people know this. And it was like a special charity episode where people who were like involved in like media, like not like YouTuber stuff, but like serious media. I can't remember all of the contestants, but Anderson Cooper was one of them.
Whoa.
So this ought to tell you the kind of it was like a special charity episode, and it was a question about where Joseph Stalin's name comes from. And it was like, none of them knew it. And it was like, really? Out of all these people, not one of them knows history well enough to know. And it's like, it's right there in the name. It's like Stalin, steal, Stalin, steal. How could you not get that? But they didn't. None of them even tried to answer. They were just completely silent till the buzzer sounded.
Interesting. Okay. Well, those are the one suggestions. All right, next question. Jackson writes in, and he says this: what is your true opinion on Donald Trump, and why are you in love with him?
What? What kind of question is that?
Yeah, that's a very leading question, Jackson. But what's your true opinion? Well, he's doing a job that is extremely hard, but he's doing pretty dang good at it so far. Commendable. What do you think, David?
I would say, yeah. I would kind of agree with you. Yeah, he's doing the best he can with what he's got to work with, and that's all I can say.
I'm a fan of the people he's surrounded himself with this time versus last time where it was a disaster. But this time, like, even the folks that I kind of had doubts in, like Mr. Rubio, even Hegseth to a certain extent, like, they've all been doing pretty dang good at their job and have even gone above and beyond in a lot of cases. So yeah. And yeah, the whole recent stuff in the last month or so has been like, oh man, the right is in a civil war. And it's like, no, the people that the majority vote in this country are kind of split on some issues, and he's trying to handle it as best he can while sticking to his intentions on the campaign trail. Because there's a lot of things that happen where I'm like, oh, why is he doing that? And then I look back and there's videos of him talking about it on the campaign trail, like especially with Iran. I'm like, that's interesting. I did not know that. So he's sticking to those principles. So, but I'm not going to get into anything of how he's handling it, but it is interesting to see him sticking to it. So it's really interesting. So, yeah. Moving on. Adelaide wrote in. And she has a few questions for us, but the first one is interesting, and I'm basically going to sum it up to, when you're preaching or teaching a lesson, what's like your main theme you go for? And she says here, hers is identity and self-image relating to our Creator. Is like, because she, for those unaware, my sister does, multiple sisters of mine do Sunday school at our church for the kids. And so every week she comes up with the lesson and the curriculum and follows that, but also does a lot of work on a very expansive PowerPoint that has animations and Bible verses and crafts, all this kind of stuff for the kids. She really goes above and beyond with it. Good job, Adelaide and Lexi and Chelsea helping out. But I was wondering, but I think this is interesting because for me, I guess it would be the same as you, Adelaide. Identity, I think, is the biggest thing I focus on whenever I'm coming up with a sermon, whenever I'm approached to. Mainly I go with, all right, Lord, what are you saying? And then it basically ends up at identity at some point. But I don't know. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree that identity is a very important topic. Because it's a lot of people are confused on it in today's culture. So yeah, it's a very important topic. I will agree on that. But for me personally, I don't think there's one topic that kind of comes up every time or most of the time. It's usually when I'm in a situation where I'm giving some kind of a teaching, whether it be preaching a sermon or doing an exhortation in a worship set or doing a devotional at youth group, it's really just all in the moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if it's an exhortation, like in worship or whatever, I don't write them beforehand or anything like that. I just come up with them in the moment. But like for devotionals, a youth group, or like sermons in church that I do from time to time, when I'm preparing them, it's more like I just kind of pick a topic and I just
Yeah.
pray for the Lord's guidance in picking the topic, and I
Mhm.
trust that he's going to guide me to the right one to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pick a topic and then I just start going.
Yep.
I just start like, okay, I want to say this about this. I want to bring up this Bible verse. And before you know it, I have a sermon finished.
Yeah.
There was very little forethought that gets put into it for me. It just kind of comes to me when the time comes for me to actually put it together.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wanted to look at what I wrote here. It's funny because every time I try to do a sermon, I try to find something that I've recently watched or listened to and try to incorporate that in the sermon or honestly, it's just pulling inspiration to see what I can come up with. And I was watching Daryl Talks Games, which is basically this dude who talks about video games from a psychology point of view and deep dives on different aspects of the intentions behind the themes of certain video games and the writing, and especially where the writers are coming from. There's one he did on artificial romance that was very fascinating, like dating simulators. He talked about like Doki Doki Literature Club, Save the Princess, which just came out. Just really interesting things. And I was trying to find a way how to intertwine that as like how to intertwine that into a sermon. And I wrote like all these notes about it. Like I even took stuff from like Nick, our pastor, did a couple sermons about idolatry, and that really was like in the same vein as what I was going for in that sermon. And I probably will preach this one day, but I want to make like a real fancy Canva presentation on it too. Like add funny things like, oh, this is Jake's first crushes or whatever, just as like just a silly thing to add in there, for comedy. And just shows like several Fire Emblem characters from the Game Boy Advance, and they're just pixels, Anyway, but I just sometimes I'll watch something or I'm like, how can I incorporate that into youth group or into something like what I have to talk about, But it's mainly based on, what's the Lord saying, But sometimes it's the Lord speaking to you through other things you're watching. Sometimes. At least for me, that's a lot of the case. You just have to go where you can fill your cup up, not where it's going to be spilt out, basically. So anyway, Adelaide also wrote something like basically our opinion on streaming versus digital or digital versus physical media and where we're going to be in 20 years with movies and music. I don't know. I mean,
Who can say at
who
this
can
point?
say at this point? I think it's going to get to digital only for nearly all media at one point. But I feel like there is going to be that hardcore, like that vinyl hardcore group that still goes and buys vinyls and thus they make it because it makes money. I think if it makes money, they're going to probably go for it.
Yeah, me
But
personally, I'm always gonna be lean towards more the physical media side. You talk about vinyl, and there's a selection of my vinyl records right behind you.
yeah,
So
you got Sabrina Carpenter's new album on there too.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm very committed to buying physical media, but who's to say whether enough people like me will remain in the future for physical media to remain viable in the market?
I think there'll always be that niche audience. In fact, I think that's what's happening with Blu-rays right now. I think it's media and movies specifically. Their Blu-ray specifically are becoming more niche, especially the last year because you've had quite a few things from Samsung and Sony shut down Blu-ray manufacturers and different products that they're not making anymore. I think it's just going to become more niche. I think it's going to be available. And in fact, there's plenty of companies out there that are like Criterion Collection, like several other physical media outlets that are going to be like shipping stuff through Amazon or shipping through on their online stores. And I think you're still going to get Blu-rays. It's just that it's going to get more niche. Right now, video games are all digital, pretty much. Right now, all of music is digital. Video games are more like 80 to 90% now, but they're getting to 100%.
I wouldn't say all of music is digital.
I mean, what is only on CD is basically what I'm saying. No,
Well,
wait, never mind. That's not what I'm saying at all.
CDs are dead.
Yeah, they're dead.
CDs are dead.
Yeah.
Which
made a comeback.
Which is really hilarious considering that vinyl and cassette are still
Yeah, it's weird.
options in the marketplace, but CDs are pretty much dead.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
you can get CDs still,
Yeah.
but as far as them being like a sought after thing, they're pretty much dead.
They're dead. The only reason you have a CD is if you wanted to support your favorite musical artist at a concert you were at, basically.
But yeah, that as far as vinyl goes, a lot of artists still release music on vinyl. Like that little collection of vinyl records behind you is not all old stuff. There's quite a few modern records in that collection.
Yeah. And also back on the speaking on the vinyl thing, or even going back to CDs, there are European manufacturers that are still making CD players that are like exquisite boutique, that are like above the line, like a super high quality or whatever. And you pay out the nose for them, but it's there for people who want it. And yeah, mass Blu-ray manufacturing is kind of taking a turn right now, but you'll still have people who are going to make Blu-ray players and Blu-rays and even burn stuff. Like, I feel like it's still going to be around. It's just going to be pretty niche and you got to know where to look for it. So that's how I think of it. Her next question is this: what do you do creatively to refresh your soul? And her examples are music, writing, reading, and then whatever else. What about you, David? What do you do to refresh the soul?
Definitely music. Just like finding time to be present without having to be busy with something. 'Cause a lot of times I think it's like either you're doing something you have to do or you're doing something because it distracts you. It keeps you from just being present with your own thoughts and working them out and all that.
Yeah.
So for me, I try to take some amount of time to just actually be present. One might call it meditation. Yeah, that'd probably be a good word for it. Although I don't, do the downward dog yoga pose and say Om, but it is meditation in a sense, because ultimately the goal is to be in control of your own mind rather than being at the mercy of whatever thoughts may come your way, kind of a thing. So yeah, music, intentional, just being present, and yeah, probably prayer too. Trying to do just connect with God in any intentional way that I can. And what is going on with you?
Downward dog? Is that a yoga pose?
Yeah, that's this.
That's what that's called?
Yeah.
What? Like that's what that's called, downward dog?
Yes.
Why?
That's just what it's called.
Makes no sense. I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's yoga.
Yoga's
stupid. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of mysticism with yoga that I have issues.
Yeah, yoga is dumb.
Yoga's dumb.
You
just stretch, guys.
You saying it makes no sense.
Just stretch.
You saying it makes no sense is like, yeah,
it doesn't.
That's right. You got it.
You got it, Jake. Good job. Were there any other examples? I'm sorry. I totally interrupted you.
Pretty much those are the main things.
Okay. For me, it's definitely music for sure. Like listening to worship music, absolutely. I've actually taken up journaling the last year or so. When I have some time, I've kind of been intentional, kind of not recently, but I try to be intentional with it when I can, and I've gotten a lot out of it. And actually, just formulating my thoughts and just writing them down. I just type it on a computer, and I have a notes app for it. But I don't do it on my phone. I don't do it on Google Docs. I just keep it all locally stored because I'm kind of paranoid. But with the intention of like, I don't know, maybe my wife will read it one day, but that's about it. But yeah, I think journaling's really helped me a lot, like mentally, like a lot, like even like spiritually too, because I'll be writing down my thoughts on like on church or whatever, or like, you know, what's going on, and just, or my journey and how I'm struggling or whatever. And it's just, it's really helped me a lot, just kind of formulating how you feel about things. And it's kind of nice to have it on paper because you could either do whatever you want with it. You can save it, you can delete it, whatever. But I don't know, it's kind of like, it's made me, I've always loved pondering on things obsessively. But now after writing them, it's like, once it's done, I can kind of let go of it. And that's really helped me out a lot. But
on a less serious note, I looked it up because I am like obsessively paranoid about not being wrong. And turns out I was wrong.
Oh,
So this is what the downward dog is.
that is absolutely what I didn't picture in my mind as downward dog.
So yeah,
But it sure makes sense when I see it.
Yeah, it makes more sense.
Basically, you're making an upside down V with your body.
Yeah, that makes more sense than what I said it was.
You were doing full Gandhi. You were going Gandhi there.
I don't. There might not be a name for that one.
Fu Manchu.
That's definitely not the name. There might not be, but I don't care enough about it.
It's Kung Fu Panda.
I don't
mode.
A lot of people say Indian style.
And that's crisscross applesauce.
But you know, I don't think
that sounds a little esoteric, and
I don't think
racist.
they call it Indian style in yoga, especially since yoga came from the part of from Indians that aren't native to North America.
Oh, I'm thinking of India, not Indians. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Indian style, like wigwams.
Oh, yeah. What makes the red man red? Yeah. Okay, all right.
But yeah, the yoga didn't come from those Indians, so I don't think people who practice yoga call it that. But I don't care enough about yoga to find out what they do call it.
All right. Moving on. Adelaide's final question is this, and we can be as short as we will. What video game adaptation would you love to see animated? Film or series, but specifically animated.
Animated.
Her example is Dead Space.
Animated.
Yeah, I gotta think about that. Because, real quick, because of the success of the recent Silent Hill 2 remake that came out, David, they're actually gonna make that into a film following up the original Silent Hill film called Return to Silent Hill.
Interesting.
And from what I can see, it seems like the second one has a better story anyway. So maybe this will catch on. But that's just a film. Let's think of animated for a second. Well, what examples do we have? We have Cyberpunk. We have Arcane, which is League of Legends. We have a couple examples of Halo and animated.
Video game adaptations are such a hard topic for me because I'm so scarred by the long history of awful ones that I don't allow myself normally to think about what video games would be good as adaptations. Simply because if they were to become adaptations, would they be good?
Yeah.
And history tells us not very likely.
Yeah, there's random straight to video movies for DC and EA films. I'm trying to think of what I would want to be animated. I'm not thinking of a specific. Oh, I totally forgot. You got Castlevania. Have you seen any of the Castlevania Netflix?
No.
Series?
No.
It's freaking amazing.
Is it good?
It's really good. The first season was only 4 episodes, but it's a dang good 4 episodes. I hear it got worse as it went along, but it was still good. It wasn't amazing like the first season, but it was still good. There's also they did a Devil May Cry animated show, which I heard terrible things about. And that's just Netflix. I'm trying to think of what I would want animated though. I would love. This is tough. This is a tough one.
You know what I would like to see animated, but it would have to be done well. Yes. It would have to be done well. Is Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
One of those old JRPGs. The characters were designed by Akira Toriyama, so I feel like doing an animated rendition of Chrono Trigger, whether in a movie or series format, I think would be a really cool thing because it would kind of make sense given the heritage of the design. But yeah, that's just what I could think of in the moment. I don't really have a list in my mind of video game adaptations that I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we watched, what was it called? The Amazon show we watched? Secret Level. We watched that. And that's really interesting, but it's all CGI stuff. Dude, the Quake episode? Oh no, Unreal Tournament, that was it. Oh man, that was a good episode.
I still say the Schwarzenegger one was the best one.
Speaking of Amazon, the New World episode of the Secret Level, which has Schwarzenegger as the main character, that was David's favorite.
Yeah, it's it's not as good from a serious storytelling perspective as any of the other ones are, but it's the only one that has a really a defined character arc where you can get invested in, None of the other ones really have that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, you know what? I would love an animated anything adaptation of Fire Emblem, but I'm just going through my if my real pick would probably be, I'm just going through my list of Steam games right now. Pizza Tower is an animated series. Give that to the guys who did Cuphead on Netflix. That would make some money right there. And also a Lethal Company show. There is so much potential in that kind of game. as a series, where whether it be one season following a group of just one company and making original characters for that company, and then just having every season end with them dying, like in the game.
Lethal Company, is that what the kids are calling friend slop nowadays?
They are. And it started with Lethal Company, I believe. But Lethal, like, that would be awesome.
Oh, you know what? I thought of another one, actually.
Yeah.
The Sam and Max series
Oh!
would be really entertaining, I think, as an animated show.
That'd be a lot of fun. Dude. And just put it on, like, oh, dude, you know what you should do? Get the guy who did Over the Garden Wall. Or the dude who did Gravity Falls. Yeah, get the guy who did Gravity Falls and do that. That'd be fun. I think that's all I have to answer. Truly. Orcs Must Die would be fun, but we'll leave it there. All right, the final and very last question, which is what final means, comes from Mario. Mr. Mario says, if you had to choose, I don't know how to answer this question, but I want to hear your thoughts, David. If you had to choose, who would you choose to be your leader from the Bible and why? And you can't choose Jesus. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out too, like someone to lead you. Let's say it here, somebody who leads you for a certain amount of time. Like say you have 30 days. God says, I'm going to send this person down for 30 days to be with you, to teach you something. Who would that be for you specifically?
For me specifically, well, that is quite the question. It's not one that I've ever really.
And he says specifically, who would you choose to be your leader? So maybe they don't even have to be a leader in the Bible, but somebody who existed.
Let's see. Oh man,
I can think of two. They're kind of obscure. I would choose number one, Matthias from Acts, the 13th disciple.
You mean the guy that they chose by gambling?
Sure, yeah, that guy. Just because I love the name Matthias, and I've always been fascinated that he's been the 13th disciple. Whatever, you can call him that. Not really, but yeah, sure.
You mean the 13th apostle?
Yes, thank you. 13th apostle. I would love to get to know that guy specifically. Like, why did you join this and what's your story? Because the Bible doesn't really go into that a whole lot. So I'd love to just get to know him more. Same thing with Jonathan, best friend of David. I'd love to get to know Jonathan, just to get to know how his brain works and how it was to basically go against your father for the God's chosen one, and what conviction you had in your heart for that. But maybe God has other intentions in this scenario, this what if scenario, that he's going to teach me about. But I would do that. Matthias and Jonathan. So what about you, David?
Let's see.
Simon the Sorcerer.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the guy who tried to
buy
by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that guy.
He's probably rotting in hell right now, honestly.
Well, I mean, you don't know that.
Yeah, he might be saved. We might see him in heaven. Never know. Maybe he got saved.
Well, I mean, he was pretty broken up when he got confronted over it. So
yeah, that's true.
He was pretty broken up about it. Let's see.
I'm interested to see that arc in The Chosen, to see what they're going to do with that. That'd be kind of cool. Same thing with Matthias. Are they going to be talking about Matthias?
Simon the Sorcerer is not going to be in The Chosen.
No, they're going to do a follow-up series about Acts.
Oh,
and I would like to see how they handle both of those.
I was going to say, it's like Acts and the Gospels are two different things.
Different things. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Anyways, who would I choose? Gosh, I don't really know how to answer that question.
Yeah,
I've never thought about that before.
Get to thinking.
Let's see. Maybe David, because, like,
a man after God's own heart.
yeah, it's like, out from, like, I guess I'd like to learn from somebody who managed to do a little something more with that name than I've managed to do so far, Maybe that would be cool. It's like, how did you become such a great and world-renowned David, and I have not managed to do that? I want a little piece of that, a little morsel of that.
All right. I mean, for whom you are named after as well.
That'd
be interesting.
I mean, David is a fascinating character.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely like to be a fly on the wall for some of the happenings. Maybe not all of them, but for some of them.
Yeah. To get that backstory,
Yeah.
To get the whys, especially. Why'd you have 40-something wives, David? No, I'm joking.
That would have been Solomon.
That would have been Solomon.
And he had way more than 40.
Yeah, way, way more. So anyway.
Let's see. Who else?
You said Solomon. That he was was he the wisest man? Or the smartest man?
Well, I don't know if he was the wisest, but like
he wise.
Specifically, God granted him wisdom because he asked for it. And because he asked for wisdom instead of like fame or riches or anything else, God also made him rich.
This is basically that Twilight Zone episode where the professional pool player comes down from like heaven or purgatory or whatever and teaches the up and coming pool player about, hey, you got the gift too. And this is how I messed up. And I'm going to if you beat me in a game of pool, you can have my gift as well. That's a great episode, by the way. It's kind of like this, where it's like, you know what? God sends down this person and they are supposed to teach you something. And then they leave.
Yeah, I don't know. Job would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Just because I'd love to see what was going on with that guy.
I would also say Isaiah. Isaiah would be interesting. And Ezekiel. Ezekiel would be fascinating. Oh, that would be dope. I'd love to get to pick the brains of those guys. And also, like, I know this is kind of boring, but Paul. Like Apostle Paul, man.
Yeah, Paul, so boring.
Well, I mean, all these guys are fascinating to be straight, but like, sorry, I looked down and I saw you make that motion with your arm, and I was very surprised. But anyway,
I was trying not to graze the microphone with my armpit.
Yes, it'd be an unfortunate occurrence, I could do it right now, though. And would the audience know? No, they wouldn't, because we would cut it out. So anyway, but yeah, Apostle Paul, like a guy who murdered Christians and dragged them in the streets and killed them, stoned them. Like, to see the journey of that to one of the most profound philosophers, for lack of a better term, of the Bible, and who had the knowledge and had like basically vast amounts of like psychological know-how of how to communicate the word. Like, that would be cool. But do some interesting what ifs.
Yeah, Paul's kind of like the obvious answer. I feel like in the same way that Jesus is off limits, I feel like
Paul kind of, he probably should be too.
He is off limits because it's like...
I guess the guy who wrote Colossians.
This is the guy who wrote most of the New Testament.
Most of the New Testament, Colossians along with everything else, so. But that's all of our questions, David. Thank you, those who wrote in. Let's see, we had Angie, Josh, Katie, Malachi, Lexi, Jace, Arson, Jackson, Adelaide, and Mario. Thank you, guys. We truly appreciate you writing in, taking the times out of your day and the the space in your brains to come up with those questions. We appreciate you. I know David sure does. He's like, I am so excited to go to bed after we stop recording this. But will I keep going and talk? Well, no. I'm going to end it there. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Remember to save that old technology. Figure out what you're trailblazing, what you think of Trump, and Snarp Fangle on.
Bye-bye now.
Hey guys, it's the best day of the year. You know why? Because there's a chicken and he's crossing the road. Holy moly! Are you kidding? Why did the chicken cross the